Week 3 of Minnesota Vikings football is underway as the team in purple looks to go 3-0 against an undefeated Houston Texans team that's coming in town this weekend. And Charles Davis, you will be on that call this upcoming Sunday on CBS. And you know both of these teams very well, and it's very identical. Two teams undefeated. And secondly, these are two teams that have started the season 2-0 for the first time since 2016. When you look at this matchup on Sunday at US Bank Stadium, what stands out to you?
So many different things. And first and foremost, Houston came in with heavy expectations. Talk about the season. Minnesota nationally did not. But internally, both felt the same thing. Both felt like they were good teams and were going to be okay. Houston's going to get everyone's best shot each and every time now. Won the division last year. Didn't stand pat on roster construction. Added some big-time players, including one big horse that you guys know very well there in the Twin Cities, named Danielle Hunter. He'll be coming back. They also added Stephon Diggs. If I'm not mistaken, this is his first game back, in Minnesota since he's been gone and went to Buffalo and now Houston. But flip it over to Minnesota. Quietly. Okay, you guys are saying Green Bay, Detroit, that's cool. I get it. Chicago's the hot team because they're on Hard Knocks. But they had a better season last year. Talk about if I'm Minnesota, we had a better season last year than people thought. And I'll be the first to tell you that the year you went 13-4, okay, and won all those games by one score in the fourth quarter, I predicted last year you're going to take a step back. Like, there's no way. That ball doesn't bounce like that, doesn't move. I thought you would take a bigger step back, which now totally sold me on Kevin O'Connell and what he's doing there as a head coach and what this roster is about. So, yeah, maybe it was quiet and it was internal for them, but now the rest of the world is seeing it. So, bottom line with this one is we have great stories on offense, but a lot of the big stories are on the defensive side of the ball for both of these teams. And the defenses don't play against each other, but this might be a game where that defense to win the game has to outplay the other team's defense. And I think both of them might be looking at it that way.
I mean, you talk about the defense. The Minnesota Vikings defense leads the NFL in sacks with 11. The Houston Texans, they're right behind the Minnesota Vikings with 9 sacks this year. When it comes to keeping the quarterback clean, how do you do that if you're this Minnesota Vikings team?
Well, I think that you do it the way that you're trying to establish things, what we've seen in the first 2 ball games. You acquired a runner named Aaron Jones from Green Bay that you like an awful lot. You've got a backup named Ty Chandler that you like an awful lot. So it's not just turning and handing it to them, but it's also swinging it to them out of the backfield for those running plays that we count as passes, right? It's also using them as check downs in the pass game when everything's taken away downfield. It's also utilizing the rest of that receiving unit that maybe the ball's out of your hand quicker against a pass rush. It's staying ahead of the yardage markers that we talk about all the time, one of those great cliches. You win first and second down and you go to third and short, you're going to win a lot in the ball game. If it's third and long for either team in this game, here it comes. Now, Brian Flores has shown us that he is a game plan week-to-week coordinator. Everybody thinks that, we saw all that pressure last year. We're not seeing all that pressure this year, yet the numbers are better. Okay? So things are happening. Things are percolating. I was with a coordinator a couple of weeks ago who's not in this game, and I asked him about his game plan in the last. He said, hey, I went into it, the idea is going to do X, Y, and Z, but we played so well without X, Y, and Z that I didn't call it because I didn't want to take them out of the zone that they were in. I think Brian Flores is very similar that way. If they start hitting things and things are working, he doesn't have to go to the other stuff. And his ego doesn't say, well, it's on my play sheet, I'm going to call it. And I think D'Amico Ryans for Houston is very similar because you saw the change up Sunday night. They are not a blitz team. They are the front line goes after the quarterback. We play coverage. We make things happen. He saw a quarterback struggling. He saw a line struggling. He said, sick him. And they went after him, and boy, did they get after it. So it just tells me that both of these coordinators see the game, feel the game, know their teams well, and they will adjust series to series and call what's best for their teams.
Yeah, you hit that right on the head. The Vikings blitz in the top 5 in the NFL when it comes to percentage. And then the Houston Texans are in the bottom 5 when it comes to percentage. And just thinking about look, I have you put yourself in your defensive mindset, former safety, NFL safety. I see the Tennessee Volunteers helmets in the back. So we know you know the game of football. If you're playing for this Brian Flores defense and you're Harrison Smith, what goes through your head? Like, how excited are you just to play free at that safety position?
It's fantastic because it's just a continuation. Like, look, Mike Zimmer, of course, used Harrison to great advantage as well. And, we know Harrison's nickname is the Hitman. All right. I always called him the Fixer. Because if anything was happening, if there was a leak, if there was something going on, if there was a drip happening in defense, I always used to envision this conversation with Zim. Harrison, fix it. And he'd send him to a spot and take care of it. We did a game there when the team was playing at the Gopher Stadium, where they were playing the Rams. And the Rams like to use a lot of what we call ghost motion, where they would, hand the ball off inside. Todd Gurley was their key runner then, and they'd have a receiver swing around behind, and you'd go ahead and you'd fake it to the receiver, and eventually at some point you'd fake it to Gurley and hand it to the receiver. But it was ghost motion all the time. And they did a lot of that, and it took a little time, and they would ghost motion, fake it, and then throw the football. And Zim had enough, okay? He'd seen it a bunch of times, and he said, Harrison, in the very next play, Harrison blitzed and hit the quarterback, the ghost motion guy, and the running back at the same time. You can use him wherever, and he's going to have an impact on the game. Back deep, close to the line of scrimmage, as a backer, as a safety, whatever it's going to take with a nose for the football. That's why I think whether it's Mike Zimmer's system, Brian Flores' system, whatever, any of these smart coaches that we're talking about are going to take number 22 and make sure he plays a lot of different places, because young kids have a hard time not just lining in one spot, right? If you give them a lot of extra responsibility, their rules change, their checks change, their landmarks change, and that can discombobulate them and throw them off. With this veteran, nothing he hasn't seen, done, or anticipated, you can use him everywhere, and guess what? It's going to be good for your team.
Very good, and hopefully that results in a win on Sunday for this Minnesota Vikings team. But understanding all the storylines and everything that's going to come into this game this upcoming Sunday on CBS at noon, give me your prediction. The Vikings will win on Sunday if? Well,
understanding this, I'm predicting nothing about who wins or loses. But the Vikings' best chance of winning this ball game, what I think would be good for them, is if they are able to get that running game going to where the pass rush is tamped down enough that Sam Darnold can operate without everyone flying at him all the time. Okay? Because it's going to be interesting to see how DeMeco Ryans plays this one. Because he's shown that he'll change up and bring extra bodies if he needs to. Because he feels good about his secondary. All right. He loves Stingley back there. Right. He loves what he's getting from these guys. He loves Jimmy Ward back there. He's got a rookie, Caleb Bullock, that I know that he loves. That is a safety that's a ball hawk. So if you feel good about your secondary, you might commit a few more bodies coming after a guy. And he might want to check and see after 2 ball games how Sam Darnold holds up. Because right now the numbers show he's very good against the blitz, but it's like 8. He wants to see if the numbers might be a little bit bigger, and let's see how that goes. So the Vikings, if they can handle that early, I think they have a great chance of winning the game. The other part is, for Brian Flores, that chess match he's going to have with C.J. Stroud and Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, is going to be so much fun. My prediction is at the end of the game, C.J. Stroud is going to get on the plane and be as tired as he's ever been after a game. Not just physically, but mentally, because matching wits with what Brian Flores throws at him is going to be a 60-minute deal. But he's also a kid that relishes the opportunity. So that's going to be the fun for me, okay? And I'll show my age. It's like 2 chess masters going at it. Bobby Fischer, Boris Spassky. If you have to look them up, go ahead. But they were the 2 chess masters that were taking on the world at the time when I was coming up in the 70s. That's what this game's going to be like for Stroud versus Flores, with obviously Slowick as the offensive coordinator.
CBS. 12 noon, kickoff, U.S. Bank Stadium. Charles Davis will be on that call, and we are honored to be joined by you today. Appreciate you, Charles.
I appreciate you. Can't wait to get there with my partners, Ian Eagle and Evan Washburn. We're going to have a ball.
Yes, sir.